Greetings and welcome to the Dakota County Star Podcast, the weekly podcast of the Dakota County Star newspaper published in South Sioux City, Nebraska. I'm Mike Carnes, publisher of the Dakota County Star and your host for our weekly podcast where we talk about what's going on in South Sioux City and the rest of Dakota County, highlight what is in this week's edition of the Dakota County Star, and discuss whatever other issues happen to be bouncing around inside that space between my ears. The Dakota County Star Podcast is sponsored by Maricela Morales, your Aflac Bilingual Benefits Advisor, located in Dakota Dunes, South Dakota. Give her a call at 712-259-6580. And now, time to launch the rockets and blast off with another edition of the Dakota County Star Podcast.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And we're ready for another edition of the Dakota County Star Podcast here on DakCoStar.com. I'm Mike Carnes, your host for all that is Dakota County, as we discuss the issues going on here in South Sioux City and around the Dakota County region. And this week, we're the lead story in this week's paper, and we'll talk about the paper a little later on, but the lead story this week was a meeting that was held here in South Sioux City last week regarding a solar farm that is being proposed out in the central part of Dakota County between Homer and Hubbard. And a lot of questions on that. A lot of people were at that meeting, and I think still a lot of questions left to be answered. And we thought, well, let's get somebody in here who can talk a little bit about that. And we thought this is a county issue, and the county board is involved in this. So we brought in Rogelio Villalobos to talk with us on the show this week. He is a county commissioner and probably one of the busiest people in Dakota County. The guy is he, in addition to his regular duties, he's a coach. He's involved with the Chamber of Commerce. He's involved with the county board and a variety of other organizations. And he does actually get sleep. We talked about this beforehand. You're in bed by 11, up by 6. That's
most nights.
That's better than me. Some nights I don't go to bed. So this is amazing. So really, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I think it's a really good opportunity for us to engage in the conversation and get some of these questions answered for the community.
You bet. The issue that we've been talking about is the Mission Clean Energy has been working with the county for the last couple of years on the on this. It's called the Sturwheeler Solar Project, and the location of it is out on along Highway 35 in the near the Twin Church substation, which I had to look for that. I drove home the other night and I said, "There's a substation around here. Where is it?" And it's off to the north and west of that church, though. That's right on the 35-110 corner there. But the solar project is consists of about 2,900 acres, and it's about a $300 million project that would really be a big asset to the area, particularly with some of the potential economic developments that's coming into the area. And really, I know you've been on the board for a little less than a year now, but you've been involved in some of this. What's why a solar farm in that location?
Well, I mean, we live in the Great Plains, right? We have a lot of flat land. We get a lot of sunlight. We have a lot of innovation happening. We have a lot of businesses coming in. A lot of development happening in the next few years that are planned, and we have very few ways of, how do I say this, producing income to help support some of that, right? So energy, financial needs for the county, right? We're at a point where our taxes are incredibly high, right? We're always looking for alternative ways to try to keep those down. Being in budget meetings is not the most fun when you see, hey, the department needs X amount of money, but they only have Y amount of money and they need to do Z. So it's hard. So one of the things that I always told constituents was my plan is to try to bring different ideas, different ways of bringing in revenue. This is one of those ways. This is one of those projects that, we were chosen by Mission Clean Energy to be one of they're not working on really anything else right now except this project, right? They believe strongly in this community and this project and the benefits that can come out of it, and they're going to make a good amount of money. We're going to make a good amount of money. It on paper looks like it's a really good investment, a really good partnership. The location seems for me, yeah, right. It's, I've lived here all my life. I grew up in South Sioux, so I don't really go out past that way. I'll be the first to admit that. So it's out of the way for me. But I know there are a lot of folks who live out there who will be looking at this on a regular basis. My first thought is, like we were saying earlier, Mike, how many people do we have commuting in and out of South Sioux, Dakota City, Dakota County, through Wayne, out towards Norfolk, some of those areas. Is it what's the what's going to be the aesthetic, what's going to be the vibe of what people think? Are they going to say, oh, look at South Sioux City, look at Dakota County, they have a solar farm, how innovative? Or are they going to say, oh, look at those sellouts? Those are things that I think about. I think about the benefits. I think about what that's going to do for the county, how it can help the county. But I also think about the letters that I've gotten in the last couple of weeks, the emails that I've gotten, the people who have asked questions about, is this the best decision for the county? And right now we are still trying to figure that out. And we have had Mission Clean Energy come and do an open house. We've had them answer questions. We've had them participate at the Planning and Zoning Committee hearings. They've been around. They've been here, which, I mean, that's not always the case. In previous lines of work, I've worked with, statewide organizations that come to South Sioux, come to Dakota County. They want to do something. They'll show up for a couple of weeks and then dip out and say, hey, you got it, and provide no further support. The project hasn't even started, and I see them pretty regularly, right? I have their phone numbers. I call them. They're calling me. Very rarely do I have to wait more than 24 hours to get a response to anything. So in regards to a relationship, they're investing, as well as money, they're also investing time. They're investing, desire to want to be here. So those are things that I think about while we do this. But going back to what you asked about the solar farm and what we think, it's different, it's new, it's innovative, right? And sometimes those words scare people, right? Change is scary.
Change is a scary word.
Change is a scary word. But then what is the other? We have to adapt, we have to change, or we get left behind. And I think South Sioux City has been left behind on a lot of things in the past because maybe we get stuck in not wanting to do different things. South Sioux City is a great community, and I feel like sometimes we get reliance on these services that are provided in Sioux City, Iowa. We are South Sioux City, Dakota County, Nebraska. We are considered rural, so we are in a weird spot because we have options, but we don't have options that are local to our state, to our community. So and
I think that's something I think the city has been trying to break away from.
Right.
With the wastewater treatment plant, we have a solar farm of our own here in South Sioux that's just right there by the treatment plant too. And I know that the city has the city council at least has really been active in trying to divorce itself from its reliance on Sioux City, from the water treatment plant and things like that. So it is something that that has been slowly progressively taking place in this area. So I think the idea of a solar farm in this location, I think that the thing that a lot of people are worried about is the aesthetics of it. I think a number of the people who live in that area that I've talked to, they're concerned about looking outside and seeing these solar panels, reflecting light into their houses and things like that. But as I understand it, there are site breaks, I guess, like kind of like wind breaks where you put trees up. There are plans to put some like that in, and then the idea, of course, is that to be able to maintain those, to continue to mow and trim and do one of those things.
Yeah, so they're going to be fenced in, right? So they're not going to be you're not going to be able to go and see all these wires. You're going to see a fence. You're going to see a nice looking fence. The fences will be high enough where you won't really be able to see them. If you're eye level, you'll see them from the road because you'll be at a distance. And then the plan is to have local groundskeepers, right? I've talked to Mission Clean Energy. In the past they've made contracts with people who just let goats out, and they'll just let the goats out every couple of weeks out in the solar farms, and really doing it in a way that is cost effective and beneficial for the community, for all the people involved. So in terms of aesthetics, right, there's again that word change. We were having a conversation earlier, right? We live in the Great Plains. We have beautiful sight lines. We used to not have roads. We used to not have houses. We used to not have anything. We used to just be prairie. I'm sure that was beautiful then too, right? 250 years into being a country, right? Things have changed, things have evolved, and me being who I am as a person, right, I'm always looking to see what we can do to better, to change, to maybe be ahead, right? That's always the goal, is to maybe be ahead of some things, and I think the city's trying to do that, right? We have the first recycled road in the state of Nebraska is here in South Sioux City. So things like this have already started to be done, right? We have the water treatment plant, we have a solar farm here already, which I was not aware of until like last year that we had one, right? So I'm sure that's the case for a lot of folks, is they're not seeing that these are there. So what are we doing as elected officials, as city officials, as as members of the community, to promote some of these things, to educate the folks, right? That's one of the biggest things that I am a huge advocate for, is a lot of times people fear what they don't know, what they don't understand. And if we can provide a way to educate folks on the benefits, on what's happening, being a little bit more transparent, then by all means. And all of our contact information is public. I mean, any questions that you may have, I'm more than willing to try to answer. This has been talked about in our planning and zoning committee for the last 2 years, and I have some folks that are telling me that they didn't know that this was happening. Why are we making such a quick decision? We're not making a quick decision. This has been an ongoing conversation for 2 years. The planning and zoning committee has done a good job of getting the people's opinions involved in questions and getting them their answers, and trying to bring in the voice of the people of the community to these decisions. And I think that's fantastic, because I know that there are other projects that have gone through that didn't get this, that they said, we're doing this, and then 3 weeks down the line, a month down the line, they're breaking ground on a project that no one even knew was happening. So I think we're doing things a little bit differently. Maybe it's taking a little bit longer than some of us would like, but at the end of the day, we're doing this for the community, and so the community needs to be involved.
And the thing you mentioned, that some people are saying this is the first time they've heard of it. That's the thing to me as a member of the news media, the local news media and everything, that it kind of frustrates me, because I am at every county board meeting. I'm at every city council meeting, making the planning and zoning meetings.
Right.
I haven't done that. It's like there's so many different boards and committees that each entity has that, and it's just impossible for me to be at every one of them. But I am at the major meetings, the county and the city meetings, and if you take out the city officials, the county officials that are regularly at the meetings, and sometimes they're there to provide reports on Jolene Goebbels is always there with the county road report, Stephanie Gansmeyer's there with treasurer stuff. If those people didn't show up, there would be nobody at the meeting except me.
Correct.
There's literally very little public input at these meetings, because nobody is there.
Right.
So to say that you've never heard, or that this is the first time you've heard of it, they've been at the meetings, and I've covered the meetings, and maybe I didn't provide a lot of coverage about what they were talking about that time. Maybe that's usually because I found there was a more important issue I felt in that story. But to say that this is the first time that anybody knows about this, I think is an indictment of the people, and I'm not being mean spirited about it, but people just don't take an interest in city and county government until something big is gonna impact their taxes or their view from their property. It's unless there's some kind of a major impact there, they just
Right.
And I can say the same for school board meetings. The school boards I've attended, school board meetings I've attended here and in other newspapers over the course of my career. If there wasn't something that was directly impacting them or their neighborhood or something like that, they just didn't take an interest.
And that's something that I feel very strongly about. I talked about previous work that I've done, voter engagement, trying to get people to show up to vote. That's another huge thing, right? Mm-hmm. We have a very low voter turnout. I was part of 3 years ago, 2022, when we had our general election, Marty and Brian Van Berkom, when they got elected that year, we did a community forum for the commissioners and the sheriffs, and it was really cool to me to see a handful of people there. We did the same thing last year, right, with Unity in Action, and there were more people there. So I mean, we're starting to do different things, and I know Sheriff Kleinberg and Marty, they've been voted in a couple of different times. They're seasoned elected officials, right? They told me that was the first time they've ever done something like that.
Yeah.
So yes, people aren't showing up, and I think we can have a little bit of a give and take and say, how are we giving people the opportunity to show up? Because some of these meetings are at weird times of the day. I understand that.
That's another thing.
That was another thing that was brought up at last week's county meeting about, hey, it's 3:00. Some people are still working. Marty did have which I wasn't aware of that either, but Marty did say, they have tried changing the times from time to time, and this is probably the time, that 3:00 time is the one that has been the most heavily attended in over the last few years. So I don't know what we can do outside of changing times, outside of providing different feedback. I mean, all of the notes are up there. I know we have some people who said, hey, during the minutes you all said this, and then something like this happened. So people are keeping us in check, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what as a citizen, as a voting taxpayer, is your responsibility to keep us in check. Tell us, hey, I don't like the way that you did this. I don't like the way you did that. Thank you for doing this, right? Because we appreciate praise as well. But at the end of the day, democracy works for those who show up, and it sucks to say that out loud because some people don't have the ability to show up, right? So how many people? We are a working community, whether it's working at a factory, working on a farm, wherever it is that you work. We don't all have the luxury to just, hey, I got to go to a county board meeting at 3:00. I got to go.
Yeah.
I have the freedom to do that. My job allowed me to do that as well when I was, a community organizer. That was part of my job, is showing up to these meetings, being informed, so then I could then inform the community. So that's something that we understand is an issue that we are trying to do better as some of the nonprofit organizations here in town, is be kind of that intermediary between the community and elected officials. And that's what led me to run for office myself, right? Yeah. Kind of being in part of those conversations, and people asking me, hey, what happened at the county board meeting, or what happened there? And sometimes I wouldn't go, but I would read the minutes. And in talking to the board, they're like, yeah, sometimes people don't do that. Sometimes people don't have access, and I understand our county website isn't the best, but the information is there. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what else to do. I know I've had the thought of maybe starting my own podcast and doing like a weekly update, a monthly update on what's going on around the county. So I don't know, maybe we can figure something out together, Mike, and do something and start bringing in more people, because information needs to be accessible.
Yeah, well, that's part of the reason why I do this podcast, because I want we can cover something in the paper, but sometimes there's more to the story,
right.
and like we're dealing with here. So and getting back to the people not being there, that is something that I do. I probably should have added to my point too, is that I understand that a lot of people work 9 to 5, right. and when you have a 3:00 meeting or even a 5:00 meeting, mm-hmm. it's tough to get to those meetings.
Right.
So I understand that, and I think both entities have probably tried different times to do meetings. And one community I worked at, the city council met at 6:00. And the school board met at 7:00, and they met on different nights too. So that's another issue that I've had to try to juggle too. Is the city council here and the school board both meet on the second Monday of the month at the same time, and as much as I try to be in two places at one time, it's impossible for me to do that. Right. So I do understand that issue that people do have too.
I think there's a school board here locally. I can't remember which of the schools, but they meet at like 7 or 6 in the morning, which, I mean, that's accessible technically, but 6 in the morning is
Can you pay attention to a school board meeting without that first cup of coffee? But I guess getting back to the solar farm though, one of the things I guess that's definitely a positive for the county is the financial aspect of this.
Correct.
This is a $300 million investment that's being made mm-hmm. in the county, and the county will benefit almost immediately from this, just on the building of the project alone. Correct. because there are sales taxes that will be involved in this, that will go to the county, and I think the number was $30 million. Is that right?
That sounds about right. I have to double check.
And $30 million in your guys' budget, that's a nice chunk of change to have. And
it would help a lot.
And I think if you can bring $30 million into the county, now I don't know if that's a yearly thing or if that's just a one-time thing, but even then, the taxes that would be coming from that after that would still be a pretty healthy amount of money, and that would not only benefit the county, but it will also benefit the Homer school district since it's being built in their district.
Correct.
And for taxpayers in Homer, that'll be a great thing for their property taxes, an opportunity to maybe bring their property taxes down some, and maybe provide some more services to the school, or that the school can provide that they don't provide now.
Yeah.
Or that they need to provide and just don't have the funding for.
Right. That's an ongoing conversation with what the benefits are. I looked at a graph that they gave me, kind of the projected revenue streams that would come in and kind of where they would go. What I was given in January is different than what I was given at the open house. The one at the open house was presented to me by an attorney who does this across Nebraska, was higher. So more money that was going to be, brought in based on different factors that weren't factored into the first projection. So I don't have that number right off the top of my head, but I know it was significantly higher than what they had quoted me before. Mm-hmm. And I mean, all that money gets divided up amongst the Homer School District, the Dakota County, our Dakota County board, which then gets distributed amongst the departments. So $30 million is a lot of money. It will help a lot of things. Mm-hmm. So that is a positive. And on top of that, you have everybody who's going to come in to help build some of those things, right? The expertise. I don't know that we have anybody locally, quote me, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know that we have any companies that do solar panel installation, right? So they're bringing people in to do that are going to be staying at our hotels, that are going to be staying, maybe buying houses, renting homes, spending money here, right? Mm-hmm. It's going to increase the amount of people that are here spending money in our county. So that's kind of the goal, is just bringing in more people, right? It's going to create some jobs. It's going to create just long-term growth for the community, and then hopefully by then, it's a 10-year expectancy for the life of the solar panels, after which they will be recycled. The land will then be returned back to whatever state it was, and
that's 35 years down the road. That's correct. So we're talking 35 years of this income coming in into the county.
Yes.
So and then another thing I think that I think is understood with the solar power is it's going to be tied into that Twin Church substation, mm-hmm. and with the potential economic development that's coming in through the Port Authority.
Correct.
That we're going to have the casino over there within a couple of years. There's a couple of major industry that is looking very seriously at land between the Roth complex and Dakota City,
right.
And then on the other side of 77 there to the west, these projects are all going to be major draws on the power that is already in use, or that we already have here in Dakota County. And so you're going to need more of that, because if you don't, then you're going to put stress on the system that's now in place, and then we had the power went out here the other day. I
was just about to say that, and we need it. We need more.
Yeah, that may be a more regular thing happening if we don't have a additional energy coming into the county from something like this. Right. Like this solar farm. So
and then it creates the supply and demand issue. We have a lot more power that we can sell at a lower price, right? So mm-hmm. people's their electricity bills are going to start to decrease a little bit more, because they're going to have they're not going to have to be prioritizing our community. We're charging however that works. I know that was another aspect of the proposal that they gave me, is being able to have just more power for the community, first of all, being prioritized, and then whatever's excess, well, then that's what's going to be shipped out and sold in other places. So it will have a direct impact on, people will pay less property taxes because we'll have more tax revenue coming in, and they'll have more power, so they will be paying less for their power. Mm-hmm. So all things that I think, in my opinion, are good, right? You're paying less money, and you're paying less taxes.
Yeah. Now there's going to be a public hearing on this coming up later on this month. I believe the 19th.
Correct.
That's going to be in Hubbard at the Hubbard Community Center.
Correct.
That's a great opportunity for listeners. If you haven't, if you still have questions on this, this would be, you're not going to get a better opportunity than this to have those questions answered. And then I don't. What is the timetable at this point for a final yes or no vote?
I think by the end of the month is kind of what we're looking at. I could be wrong. Just kind of depending.
Because you'll have a meeting on
Monday. I think it's the same day. So, but it's before. So we'll be going.
So you're talking about that first meeting in September, right?
Correct.
Which would be a Tuesday because you'll have Labor Day on Monday the 1st. So
I'm glad you're keeping track of my calendar.
Hey, this is the time of year when I really pay a lot of attention to calendar because I got football coming up and sports coming up. So the calendar becomes my mortal enemy at that.
I just swipe left on my phone so I can see my calendar, and some days I'm just like, you know what, I'm just gonna put my phone down and not even look. But yeah, the 19th will be a really good time for anybody that has any more questions to really have the opportunity to get their voices heard. On the 15th, the library is co-hosting a lunch and learn for anybody that's interested in learning more about solar projects.
That's next Friday.
That's next Friday, the 15th, right? That's free to the community. Conservation Nebraska is putting that on. There will be free food. So, if that's something that you're interested in, by all means, attend. We'll have some people to talk about solar projects. Right?
I'm always interested in free food.
Right, free food is a huge thing.
If you work in the newspaper business on that, free food that's always a draw.
Right. I worked at a newspaper in college, and having to pay for my own hot dog kind of got annoying.
Yeah, it does. So, but this is I think this is a great opportunity, as we said, for if you have questions on this solar farm. This is the opportunities to get those questions answered next Friday with the lunch and learn, and then the following Monday with the planning and zoning meeting. I know some people have asked, is this a done deal? Is this some?
We have not signed off on anything yet. We've signed off on ordinances. We've signed off on some of the meetings, but we haven't said we are signing off on this and we are getting this built. That has yet to be signed off on. Sorry. Everything that we've approved, very similarly to Sioux City changing their nuclear ordinances, right? We've approved ordinances. That's the only thing that we have approved.
You're basically what you have done is you've adjusted the ordinances to make something like this possible.
Correct.
And then it's just a matter of making is it something that you want to have here in Dakota County?
Yep, because that was another big thing that we heard. Well, it's going to be rendered obsolete with nuclear energy going up in Woodbury County. They approved ordinances to potentially do nuclear energy in the near future, and a project like that is years from actually being able to be broken ground on. So this is something that once we get approved, we could get started as I don't want to say like this year, but it would probably be relatively soon from the day that we approve it.
You could probably have it up and running by this time next year. You think maybe? That's probably best case scenario.
Best case scenario,
maybe early 27, somewhere around there.
Right.
But that's all assuming that it ultimately is approved. Which it has
yet to be approved.
And I've talked to a couple of the county commissioners, and they haven't said yes or no yet. They said they still have a lot of questions too.
Correct.
So I imagine that we're still a ways away from a final decision on this. Again, great opportunities to get information on this at the Lunch and Learn. That's at the library.
At the library. South Public Library, noon to 1:30.
Noon to 1:30 next Friday. And then the planning and zoning meeting will be in Hubbard at the Hubbard Community Center at 7:00, and that's another opportunity to make your voice heard, not only to the county board but to the planning and zoning committee too, because those people that's part of their responsibility as representatives on those boards is they're your voice to these issues. So if you can make your voices heard, whether you're for it or against it,
correct.
That's what they will ultimately base their final decision on, and then of course hey, if you don't like their decision, next time they get elected, maybe run for their seat.
I will help you. I will help you run for my seat. I've said this multiple times. I don't plan on being a career politician. I want to do it. Get the experience, do something good for the community, and then let somebody else take over. Hopefully somebody better with better ideas. That's what I do for work. I help people who want to get involved. If you want to get involved, by all means, let me know. I will help you run this next election.
And right here is a prime example of the need that we have in not just in South Sioux City, not just in Dakota County, but everywhere in the state. Rogelio is a young guy. You were what, 33?
32.
32. You'll be 33.
I will be 32 at the end of the year.
You'll be 32.
Correct.
Okay, so you're 31.
Correct.
So you're barely 30. So, but whatever. A lot of the people that are in public office right now are people that are my age and older. I'm going to be, really, I'm going to be 60 next year, but I tell people I'm
summer chicken, not a spring chicken, a summer chicken.
Right. I tell people that when I went 50, I'd start going backwards. So depending on my state of mind, they're going to be 40 or 60 next year. So take your pick. But the point is that there are a lot more people my age who maybe have the experience of life and everything, and those people's voices need to be heard. But we also need young people. We need the young people who are seeing the future and understand what worked 50 years ago is not going to work today. Time changes, technology changes. Change is a dirty word. We've all, anybody who's been involved in change will tell you it's a dirty word, but it's a necessary word. And I think getting people like Rogelio, if we can get more young people who are in tune with the future and in tune with the needs, with the opportunities that are out there and the needs that need to be met, I think we're gonna be in a lot better place. So really, I'm glad you came by and chatted with us this week, and I'm anxious to see how this all plays out.
Yeah, thank you for having me, first of all, and I again encourage you all to get involved. That's what I do for. People always ask me, what do you do for work? I'm like, I work for Conservation Nebraska. I do their leadership development manager, boards and commissions fellowship. Basically, I help people across Nebraska who want to be involved, right? You want to serve on a local board? Let me help you, right? You want to do anything, right? Let me help you achieve what you want to do, what you're passionate about, so then hopefully you will then be able to make informed decisions when it comes down to, you serve on the Parks and Rec board, they want to do something with renewable energies. Hey, remember that guy from Conservation Nebraska that talked to you about renewable energies? Yeah, right. It's a long-term, long game, but I've gotten to help some really cool people across Nebraska. I got a gentleman down in Omaha who's serving now on the Audubon Society, loves the Audubon Society. Now he's a board member with them. I got a couple people here locally who wanted to get more involved. They are now part of some different boards here in the community. I've been serving on boards for the last couple of years now. I see the importance of, volunteer service and giving back to the community, and being an elected official is one of those ways to do it. Jokingly, I always said I want to give back to the community that helped raise me, because I thought it sounded like a cool rap lyric, but that's what it ended up being, right? I want to do that, right? I grew up in South Sioux City. I grew up in this community. I want to do what I can do to make it better for the next generation. And that generation is coming, and they're faster, they're stronger, they're smarter than anything that I've ever seen. So I want to be able to give them something that they can mold, that they can, make to what they need to do, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's again, change. It is a scary word. I am finding that out myself, that I am kind of in that weird middle ground, right? Because I agree with a lot of what people are saying, in their 60s, 70s. I'm like, man, that's a really good point. And I understand that why this young kid doesn't want that, right? So I found myself in this middle ground, and so that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get both sides to communicate, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and that's all I can do is what I've been trying to. But. And
I'll tell you what, if there was an award for the most busiest person in Dakota County, this guy would have it hands down.
I don't know about that.
What Leadership Dakota County you're involved with, and Chamber of Commerce, and
Heartland Counseling Services.
Heartland Counseling Services, and
the Cardinal
Education Foundation. He's a soccer coach. He coaches 3 soccer teams?
I coach Interstate Soccer Club. I assistant coach with the South Sioux Girls, and I assistant coach with the Western Iowa Tech program as well.
Yeah, and then do you have kids?
No, I don't.
I was going to say, well, if you had kids, then I know you'd be lying about the sleep.
The moment I start having kids, the moment I'm going to start falling back, right?
Yeah. Well, you're doing a great job with everything that you're doing, Rogelio. I appreciate you taking time to talk this week on the podcast.
Thanks for having me again.
You bet, and we'll probably have you on again somewhere down the road. And
maybe in a different role, right?
Probably in a different role. You got a lot to we got a lot to talk about, so we could probably fill up about a dozen podcasts with what you got going on.
Some B-roll, right? You have a slow news day. Hey, what's Rogelio got going on today?
We'll call it the Rogelio podcast.
No. It's the Dakota County podcast for a reason. Dakota County Star podcast.
All right. Well, thanks a lot for talking this week on the podcast.
Appreciate you having me.
All right. We're going to take a time out. We'll have more here on the podcast. We'll tell you about this week's newspaper, what's in this week's Dakota County Star after this time out. Back to the podcast in just a moment, but first I want to tell you about Maricela Morales. She's your local Aflac bilingual benefits advisor, and she can help your small business provide benefits to your employees at no cost to your business. If you want more information, give her a call at 712-259-6580, and she can get you all the details. There's no obligation, and she can answer all your questions. So give Maricela Morales a call at 712-259-6580, your Aflac bilingual benefits advisor in Dakota Dunes, South Dakota. All right, thanks to Rogelio Rodriguez Villalobos for stopping by and talking with us on the podcast this week. The solar farm issue, it's a big issue here in the county right now, and I know a lot of people, particularly those who are living in and near that area out there, have a lot of questions. I think there's some people that are against the idea, and maybe some that aren't sure that they want something like that out. Looking out their window of their house there outside of town. But I think it's one of those things where I think if Midwest Clean Energy really works with those people out there, I think, and we get a lot of those concerns met. I think it's going to be a huge benefit to the county. I think in the long run, I think when you bring in $30 million that first year in tax revenue, that's a huge chunk of change. And I don't care what entity is benefiting from that. But Homer Public Schools is going to benefit from that with it being built within their district, and that'll help that school district out too as well. Growth is it's a big deal. Growth is happening here in Dakota County with the Inland Port Authority designation that has opened a lot of opportunities for growth here in Dakota County, and the amount of energy that's being produced between what the city gets from NPPD and what they create on their own with the solar farm there on the southeast edge of town there by Tyson, just to the east there between Tyson and the wastewater treatment plant. That's big, but these industries that are coming in, the casino that's going to be built, there's just so much happening here in Dakota County that's going to be happening in the next 10, 20 years that there needs to be some type of additional energy brought in somehow, and I think. I live in Wayne County right now, and so I see the windmills that are in place in western Wayne County and then in Dixon County, and quite frankly, if I have to look at anything, I would rather look at I would rather have the green fencing, however you want to call it, and the solar panels that are only going to be 7-8 feet high. It's not like these things are going to be 100 feet in the air or something like that. These are only going to be about 8 feet off the ground, and I would rather have that, to be honest, than to look at 50, 100 windmills spinning around, that you see out to the west and north. If I had to choose, that's what I would choose. So we'll see how it goes. Pluses and minuses on both sides of the fence there. So we'll see how things go in the weeks and months to come. As far as this week's Dakota County Star goes, of course the big thing this week, the fair results. Of course, the Dakota County Fair week before, and we had all the results from all the 4-H and open competitions and stuff that took place during the fair there, and that's a special section that you'll find in this week's Dakota County Star. Lead story, of course, is Solar Farm. The Public Works Committee, City Public Works Committee, gained some information on a request for TIF funding LB 840 funding that would be used to enhance a entrance at a building that is currently sitting empty, but would be has been purchased by Triumph Roofing, and they want to do a bunch of stuff with that and want to make it look better. And so that's part of what they're looking at there. And there'll be some more information on that, I think, at the next Public Works Committee meeting about 10 days from now. The county board had kind of very short meeting Monday, and really the highlight of the meeting was discussion of the solar farm. The board has received a number of letters from concerned citizens, and so those were read and discussed during the meeting there on last Monday. Also on the front page, if you want to know who this year's new teachers are at South Sioux City Community Schools, there's a picture of them on the front page there. There's about 30 of them in this year's lineup. So welcome to South Sioux City to all of you, and best of luck with the school year, which starts Monday, believe it or not. Kind of hard to believe summer's over, isn't it? Also, the story walk that's on the trail here in town, on the walking trail, has been updated. There's a little information on that in this week's paper. This week's columns, Senator Ricketts speaking about how the One Big Beautiful Bill is supporting the good life. Senator Meyer talking about artificial intelligence. I'm sure there's a joke in there with politicians and artificial intelligence, but I'm not going to deal with it right now. We got other things to talk about. And then my column this week, there's actually a organization that has started a Kid Governor program, and some schools are involved in that. And the kids that are involved in it, they actually have an election for governor, and then the other kids that are involved are on the governor's staff. The state auditor or whatever you want to call them. And I thought, hey, the Nebraska Democratic Party seems to have problems finding candidates for public office. Maybe we could get whoever wins that competition to run against Governor Pillen for election next year. What's the worst that could happen, right? So, also a couple of pictures of some storm damage that happened last week in the days leading up to the county fair. We were very fortunate here in Dakota County. There was some damage, nothing like what happened to our neighbors to the east, particularly Spencer, Iowa. Spencer, Iowa got hit with 100-mile-an-hour winds, and this is a community that a year ago was practically underwater with the flooding, and now they get that. So that was kind of a tough break for that community. And we were fortunate not to get near as much damage there. On the sports page, the Unified Union Omaha Owls Special Olympic team been in action recently, and we thought we'd give them a little extra ink this week. So we got a couple nice pictures up there of that. Dan Neiman from the City Library with his column this week. A couple of obituaries to read up there, and homework tips with school getting started. Homework tips coming up with Angela Apps from the Extension Office. Also, our usual offering of legal notices, which will help you stay informed on what our government entities are doing with your tax dollars. And then finally on the back page, just to look back at the county fair, some pictures that we captured during the last few days, and county fair always a lot of fun. Always just kind of seems to sneak up on us, and then by the time we get into it, it's all done already, and then we look forward to next year. So thanks again to everybody involved with the fair, the fair board, the 4-H people, all the kids, and especially the parents who help their kids out with their various 4-H responsibilities and everything. There's an old saying that it takes a village, but I'll tell you what, it takes a lot more than a village to do what they do at the county fair every year. So thanks to everybody involved with that, and we look forward to the 2026 edition of the Dakota County Fair coming up about 51 weeks from now. 51 weeks. Well, it'll be here before you know it, believe me. So yeah, coming up next week, of course, the start of the school year. South Sioux City gets their school year started on Monday, and I believe Emerson, Hubbard, and Ponca start a little later in the week, and Homer is a week back. I think they don't start till the 20th, I believe, is their first day. And that information always in this week's issue of the Dakota County Star as well. So if I'm wrong, it's because I haven't read my own paper. So there you go. But school getting started, so make sure that when you're out on the roads that you're safe. And keep an eye on those kids as they make their way to and from school. And we're it's hard to believe that we're at this point in the year already, but that's where we're at. So that's going to do it for this week's edition of the Dakota County Star podcast here on DakCoStar.com. And again, thank you to Rogelio Rodriguez Villalobos for his time to talk with us on the solar farm. We'll have another edition of the podcast coming up next week right here on DakCoStar. Until then, keep doing what you're doing. Take care of yourself, and we'll see you next week right here on the Dakota County Star podcast.